Hey everybody, and welcome back to another Star Wars X-Wing repainting video. As you might guess from looking at what's in front of me, I'm going to be repainting the Tantive IV, also known as the Blockade Runner, one of the first ships that you see in the original Star Wars movie. But I'm not doing just a straight upgrade to the paint, which, really it's not all that bad. As one of the things I noticed when this came out was that, and really like many of the X-Wing models, is that the paint job is at least adequate and, pretty good, actually. But what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be turning it red. The client that I'm painting this for wants this to be a red ship, a very specific ship, and it's called the Crimson Dawn. So I'm also going to be doing some custom markings for it. And this video will probably take place over several segments. So my guess is that they'll also be longish. So if you like my videos short and punchy, this is not going to be one of those videos. So one of the first things to keep in mind about doing a repaint like this, trying to break it down to as few pieces as possible is ideal. Not few pieces, I'm sorry, as many pieces as possible. As few pieces would be the opposite of what I meant. Unfortunately, most of this, like the guns, oh, wait a minute. I'm going to have to come back to these. Oh, no, there we go. The guns do come off. Well, that's nice to know. Apparently it's just locked in place, so it's just a turn. Yep, same thing with the radar dish. That's nice. It would be really cool if these came off too. No such luck. But I do believe... All right, well... I know that in the past, the engines have been able to be removed, and really on this ship, this is a necessity because there's really no other way to get in there. So, yeah, I'm gonna work. You can hear it cracking. I'm gonna work this. Work the glue points a little bit, I think. Or I might trade this with a friend who I know has one with all the engines loose. That actually might be the best way to go. Because I'm afraid of, I'm really kind of afraid of breaking these things. I do hear the glue giving away, but that could be a problem. So I'm going to work on this part, and then I'm going to get back to you. Right? No, that doesn't come loose. Well, that's a shame. Not a big deal. So I'll be back. So unfortunately, both of my other options have failed me. Could not remove the engines. They are too well glued in. And I don't really have time to wait to see if I can trade for another one. So we're just going to have to do this the hard way, I think. And while that does present a few problems, it's not insurmountable. Obviously, the areas where we're going to have the most trouble painting in between here are also the areas that are going to be the least seen. So as long as we can get a good initial coat of paint in there, it will be possible to weather inside of there with washes and such, which will be just fine. I mean, you won't be able to tell that we weren't able to get these engines off. It is unfortunate. And if you have one of the original releases of the Tantive IV, you shouldn't have any problem taking these apart, and it'll make your life a lot easier. So That said, I guess we're just going to move on. Now, the version that I'm doing is going to have relatively equivalent weathering to what we see here, which means there's going to need to be some chipping and some panels that are of different colors. And so you kind of have to plan for that in advance, or certain elements of this you might want to plan for in advance, particularly the chipping. Paint chipping is one of those things that you can do in a myriad of ways. And you can do the salt technique, which is dampening the surface of your model, sprinkling salt on it, and then spraying over that. And the salt, of course, acts as a masking agent that has a very natural look for chipping when you take it off. You can also do the hairspray method, which is spray a coat of hairspray, then your coat of paint, and then you come back, and if you wet the surface, the moisture leaches beneath the paint and into the hairspray, which is water soluble, and it allows you to go in and worry at the paint with a toothpick or a cocktail stick, and also do some realistic chipping. Now I also have the Vallejo chipping medium, and I have experimented with that on another X-Wing ship, and it's probably one of the easier ways to do it, because as soon as you put down the chipping medium where you want the paint to chip. You can't do it like the hairspray where you're coating the whole thing and then picking the areas afterwards that you want to chip. You actually have to put it down on the places where you want the paint to chip, because the top coat is not going to stay. That chipping medium just comes right up. So if you tried to coat the whole thing with it, any paint that you put on top of it is going to go away. So I'm not sure I like that method, and since I've never tried the hairspray method, I think that's what I'm going to do with this model. One of the things, so the other thing to consider with that is, if you're going to be chipping the paint, then what is underneath your primary color? Now, most of this is a nice kind of warm gray, which is perfectly fine. But some of it is not. Some of it is red, and these are areas that I would want to chip. So I think the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to paint those red areas in another gray. And I'm not going to worry about masking anything off. I'm not going to try and make it neat. All I want to do is cover up the red. And even then, the red doesn't need to be 100% covered. It could even, some of that red could bleed through and be a little pink, and that would be perfectly fine. All I want is a good contrasting color so that when I chip my paint, there is something else coming through and you'll be able to see that. And so that's going to have to be my first step. Well, actually, my first step is going to be, I'm going to run out and go buy some hairspray because I don't have any. And you know what? So I'm going to be gone for about, I don't know, an hour or so. But for you, I'll be right back. All right. So you know what? I should probably take these off. So I took a piece of plastic that I had laying around, and I coated it with black, just black primer, and then I put a coat of hairspray on it, because I'm going to do a test on that before I do this. Since I've never done this before, I want to make sure that I picked up the right thing. I've never bought hairspray before, and it's entirely possible that I got the wrong stuff. The truth is, though, that it smells like hairspray to me, so I think we're good to go. I am using Vallejo Game Air Stonewall Gray for this part of the operation. And of course, all I'm going to be doing is covering up the red. And I think only the red. I don't think I'm going to cover up anything else. If you've watched any of my other videos, you know that, repainting videos specifically, that I don't strip the models anymore. It seems to be a waste of time. The coating of paint that is on there is very thin, doesn't really cover any detail. It's certainly no worse than a coat of primer would be, and it acts as primer already. This color is very, very close to the existing gray on there. It's a little darker. I'm going to go ahead and coat these inner portions as well. As I'm sort of thinking this through, I think those may end up not being red. Same thing for these areas here. So I'm not going to fully coat them. I'm really just sort of getting rid of some of the contrast of the wash, that the pre-existing wash that is in there. All right, so this is going to be my quick test of the hairspray chipping. Something I wanted to mention, though, before I get going here, is that when I did my first pass on this, anywhere where the paint was particularly wet when I laid it down, it kind of cracked a little bit. Almost like a cracking medium was underneath it. So I want to make sure that perhaps I go a little bit lighter on the hairspray, and make sure to do very light coats when I'm actually painting my red. So anyway, let's try this out. So I'm just going to pick a spot. I'm going to wet it a little bit. Let that sit. Oh, look at that. Ooh, that's actually really a lot more pronounced. Look at that. Look at how easily that comes up. I was not expecting it to be that easy. So maybe I go a little bit lighter on the moisture. Yeah, that seems better. What about no moisture? No, you kind of need to have some moisture on there, but I am a little concerned. I think the trick is going to be a very light hand with the moisture, because I can see all of this area here, you may not be able to see it. I can just barely see it. That the paint is sort of doing a little orange peel thing there. I don't know if you'll be able to see it when I do that, but I can see it, and then we can take a look at that after it dries and see if that goes away. Oh yeah, so even just the really most modest amount of moisture will do it. This is too much, definitely too much. This might be too much. And this seems to be just right. This is a damp brush. I've been wiping off a lot of the moisture onto my hand just so that when it goes on there I can still see a sheen from the moisture, but not very much. Yeah, and then that's perfectly workable in terms of creating scratches in the paint. I'm going to dry this off with a hairdryer and we'll see. Okay, I got this dry, and the nice thing is, even on this one, which was completely too wet, the all of the orange peel has gone away. Definitely here, where I felt like it was a little bit too wet and it was starting to orange peel, but not as much as this, that's all gone away. And the one where I did it just a little damp definitely looks good. So I think I know how to proceed with this, and I will do a base coat on the ship, and we can move forward from there. Yeah. All right. So back to it. All right. So what I've done so far here is I gave the thing a coat of hairspray, and then I did some pre-shading on the panel lines. Now what that's going to do is going to, well, it's pre-shading. I mean, you can pretty much tell right from what I called it what it's going to do. But after I paint this red, some of the black will kind of show through and create a nice darkened effect between the panels. It'll look nice. You'll see. You'll see. It'll be great. The color I'm using for this, and I'm going to pretty much do this overall. I had some thoughts about perhaps leaving some of this gray, but I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to paint the whole thing red, and then if there's anything that I want to bring back to a different color, I'm going to do that afterwards. And of course I'm going to do some changes in panel colors and stuff like that. But I'm using Mephiston Red, which I've mixed up for the airbrush, and it's fairly thin. I'm going to do light coats to build it up, and I'm probably not going to force you to watch this whole process, as it will be boring and tedious. So we'll be back in a second. All right, so I've got the base coat on the model itself. Somehow I managed to forget the little accessories, but I can go back pretty quickly and do those. Pretty happy with how it came out. It was not impossible to get into the engine area, but it was challenging. Let's just put it that way. I'm going to want to get some washes in there to pull out all that detail. And I don't know if I'm going to do that first or not, but I am going to do it pretty soon, I think. I'm trying to figure out where to go next, aside from, painting these things. There's a number of steps that I need to do, and so one of them is going to be to repaint some of the panels. and one of them is going to be to pick out some details, and I think I'm going to start with the bigger stuff first. So that's either going to be washes or panels. I think panels makes the most sense, because if I'm going to be doing washes, I'm going to want to do them over those as well. And I realized something a little bit earlier as I was thinking about doing the washes, and that is the fact that the hairspray will make washes problematic. So I guess I'm going to experiment a little bit on some of it, and I might have to be a little bit more careful about how I'm doing my washes, and how thickly I put them down. And I may need to be maybe do more like pin washes instead of overall washes in order to get what I want to get done. So let me see. So for the moment, I think we're going to work on painting those things and getting some panels done. So be back in a bit. All right, I've done a little masking, as you can see, and I'm going to do some faded red panels, maybe pink panels. It's more pastel red. I've also done some washes. Now I've used a Vallejo dark brown wash across here and down here, and it's working out just fine. I actually think the dark brown is preferable to using black, especially on this red. I think it's going to work out really well. I've added some black touches, as you can see, on the engines and into these little vents, and the same thing on the other side. And I'm kind of just touching everything a little bit all over. And now we'll see if these... I don't want to go too crazy on these. I'm not trying to make it real solid color. I'm just trying to create a variation in the tone. So some of you know this, maybe not all of you, but I actually have a movie credit to my name. I worked on the original Starship Troopers, and so doing stuff like this really kind of brings me back to that, because we did a lot of painting of little panels on that show, painting all of those various starships, but we had little brass templates that we use. We just lay down, spray, which is great when you're going quick and dirty, and not so good when you want something that's, you know, people are going to see up close. All right, well, let's have a look at a couple of these. See how there's just a basic variation in tone there. I think, well, I'm going to go back over and do this a couple of times. I'm probably going to do one where I go a little darker, and then one where I'm actually going to change the actual color of a couple of the panels, just so that you have that. So these are sort of like panels that got changed out and they didn't match the color exactly. And then I want panels where they changed them out and they didn't have the color at all. So you're going to have some quite different panels. Oh, I don't think I hit that one at all. Oh, I thought that this tape might end up peeling up some of the paint because of the hairspray, and it did that a little bit there. I'm not worried about it though, obviously, because I was going to be doing some chipping anyway, so if it happens naturally, that's okay. Here, see that? All right, so yeah, I'm going to go ahead and noodle on this some more and do some more panels, and then I'll probably end this video here though. So next time on part 2, you'll get to see where we are with the panels, and we'll move on to doing some washes, and I'll show you how I'm doing that, and some other weathering. So that's it for now. And I will talk to you later. Thank you for watching.